Bram Stoker's Dracula weaves a tale rich with suspense, supernatural intrigue, and psychological horror. At its heart, the story isn't only about a vampire, but about a clash between the old and new worlds, the rational and the supernatural, love and corruption, as well as the resilience of friendship against overwhelming darkness. Act 1. The Journey to Castle Dracula. The story begins with Jonathan Harker, an English lawyer, traveling to Transylvania to aid a nobleman, Count Dracula, in purchasing an estate in England. Harker's journey takes him deep into the Carpathian Mountains, where he encounters a fearful local populace. They offer him charms and warnings against the Count, hinting at dark tales. Upon arrival at the eerie, dilapidated Castle Dracula, Harker meets the Count, a gaunt, mysterious man with an unsettling presence and strange habits, such as avoiding daylight and casting no reflection in mirrors. Gradually, Jonathan realizes he's a prisoner. The castle becomes a maze of horror as he stumbles upon Dracula's three brides, seductive yet monstrous women who nearly drain his blood. Through a terrifying sequence of events, he learns Dracula's dark secret. He is a centuries-old vampire who feeds on the blood of the living to sustain his immortality. Jonathan barely escapes, scarred and weak, and returns to England, hoping to rebuild his life with his fiancée, Mina. Act 2. The Descent of Lucy Westenra. While Jonathan recovers, Dracula arrives in England, hidden in a ship's coffin filled with earth from his homeland. The Count's arrival brings a wave of supernatural unrest, particularly targeting Lucy Westenra, a beautiful young woman and Mina's best friend. Lucy is courted by three men, Arthur Holmwood, Dr. John Seward, and Quincy Morris, all of whom care deeply for her. However, as Lucy falls mysteriously ill, she becomes increasingly frail, suffering from sleepwalking and recurring blood loss. When Dr. Seward calls his mentor, Professor Abraham Van Helsing, to help diagnose her illness, Van Helsing suspects vampirism and takes drastic measures to protect Lucy, using garlic, holy wafers, and other traditional remedies. Despite their efforts, Dracula's grip on Lucy tightens, and she dies tragically, only to rise again as an undead creature, prowling the night to feed on the blood of children. Her former suitors, alongside Van Helsing, are forced to destroy her in a heart-wrenching ritual, staking her heart to release her from Dracula's curse. Act 3. The vampire hunt begins. Haunted by Lucy's tragic fate, Van Helsing, Jonathan, Mina, Arthur, Dr. Seward, and Quincy form an alliance to hunt Dracula. They gather knowledge on the vampire's weaknesses, including his aversion to sunlight, his need for his native soil, and his vulnerability to religious symbols. They begin systematically tracking down and sanctifying each of his lairs in England, attempting to weaken him. But Dracula, recognizing the threat they pose, focuses his attention on Mina, now Jonathan's wife. He invades their home, and in a scene of horrifying intimacy, he forces Mina to drink his blood, binding her to him in a psychic connection. This sinister bond allows her to sense his movements and intentions, but it also puts her at risk of transforming into a vampire herself, if Dracula isn't stopped. Act 4. The Final Pursuit. As Mina's condition deteriorates, the group uses her link to Dracula to pursue him. They trace him back to his homeland, traveling by land and sea in a high-stakes chase across Europe. Racing against time, they confront him at his castle, where they engage in a climactic struggle. With stakes, holy symbols, and sheer courage, they confront and ultimately destroy Dracula in a showdown that ends his centuries-long reign of terror. Themes and symbolism. Stoker's Dracula is layered with symbolism and explores numerous themes, Victorian Anxiety over Modernity versus Superstition. The novel reflects the struggle between the modern, scientific world and ancient superstitious beliefs. Van Helsing's scientific mind paradoxically embraces the supernatural, symbolizing the clash and reconciliation of the old and new worlds. Gender and sexuality. Dracula's interactions with women, particularly Lucy and Mina, are charged with Victorian fears of sexuality and the subversion of gender roles. His blood rituals resemble seduction, blurring the lines between horror and desire and threatening the Victorian ideals of purity and chastity. Friendship and loyalty. The deep bonds between the main characters provide a moral contrast to Dracula's predatory nature. Their selflessness and unity against Dracula's individualistic evil highlight the power of human connection. The fear of the other. Dracula, an exotic Eastern European figure, represents the fear of foreign invasion and contamination in Britain, a reflection of the xenophobia present in Victorian society.